Hey everyone, the Netherwing reputation has been out in Classic TBC for a few days now, and since it was added with Phase 3, a lot of players are realizing how incredibly long and tedious this reputation really is. Not really because the reputation itself is any slower than any others we've had so far, but specifically because of how time-consuming the dailies are. And I definitely share that sentiment. However, throughout the last few days, the community came up with a lot of very useful tips to shave off a significant amount of time from doing your dailies every day. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. We're gonna explore 7 of these tips together here, and at the end of this, you'll hopefully be shaving off tens of minutes of time from your Netherwing dailies, and hopefully get your Nether Drake faster and easier. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first off, before we even get to the dailies, the first mistake that a lot of players do every time with Netherwing is they skip some very important one-time quests. There's actually quite a few of those that are very well hidden, and I can almost guarantee you didn't do all of them. So let's see the list of those hidden quests. The first one that gets unlocked right away at neutral is a job unfinished. This starts off an item that drops from Arvoar the Rapacious, the partially digested hand, and this has you kill Barash the Den Mother and 10 Overman Flayers. The Flayers are very easy, but both Arvoar and Barash are elites, and you may or may not need help with them, so don't be shy and group up for this. The next quest is unlocked at Friendly. You probably did it because it's not super hidden, but it starts off Ronag the Slave Driver, deep in the Nethermine Cave, and it's pretty easy to do. But the other quest that also unlocks at Friendly is called the Great Murkblood Revolt. This is actually super hidden. It starts off the Murkblood escape plans, which have a very low chance to drop off the sludge-covered object, which itself has a chance to drop off the Black Blood of Draenor mobs inside the cave. It actually took me a few days to get this item to drop, but I only farmed it for an hour or so in total, I would say. Maybe you'll be more lucky. But once you have this, it's pretty much easy. You turn it into the Mistress of the Mine, then you talk to an NPC inside the cave, and then back to the Mistress. And that's pretty much it for the hidden quests. That's a whopping 1500 reputation points in total for 30 minutes of your time that you could have missed. In other words, a full day of dailies. Moving on, let's actually talk about dailies now, and there's a lot to be said. So first off, and most importantly, a slow death. The Peon poisoning daily. If you ever done this, you know the struggle of farming those 12 fell glands. It takes an eternity, especially on populated servers. Thankfully, there's a way to make this quest considerably faster. The trick is all about the fact that actually the progress for this quest is shared. So if someone in your group drops the poisoned food and a camp of peons eats it, everyone in the group gets credit for that. I think you see where I'm going with that. You can simply farm, say, only 6 fell glands and then find someone else who has 6. At that point, you can just stick with each other, making sure you don't drop the food twice at the same camp, because otherwise you'd be wasting fell glands. And voila, you just saved twice the amount of time it would have taken. Theoretically, you could do this with 5 people only having 2 to 3 fell glands each, but finding 5 people every day is not very realistic, so just find one other person and you'll be good. Next up, we have the Netherwing Crystals quest. You know, the one that has you farm 30 every day, and which takes probably the biggest chunk of your time. First off, what's the best place to farm those crystals? I found that inside the Netherwing mine is the best place to do that, specifically on the Black Blood of Draenor mobs. They respawn quite fast, they have quite a good drop rate, and on top of that, they also drop those bags that contain that other quest that I told you about earlier. Other than that, here's the actual tip here. You can actually farm as many of those as you want, even outside the quest. You could stockpile for 1, 2, or as many days in advance as you want. The reason you'd want to do this is obviously to save you precious time on those days where you have limited time to play. You'll still have to spend time farming those crystals eventually, of course, but at least it's gonna be at your own convenience. By the way, this works for many other quests too. For example, the Fell Glands daily that we talked about earlier. For that one, you actually have to have the quest in your quest log for the Fell Glands to drop, but as long as you don't use them, they will stay in your bags forever. So you can stockpile a day or two worth of dailies in advance if you want, if you know you'll be busy the following days. Moving on, the not-so-friendly skies, aka the Netherwing Relic daily, aka that annoying daily where you have to kill the flying mobs. So this daily is annoying for multiple reasons. First off, those mobs are very limited in numbers and only have 2 spawn points. Second, if you're a melee, you're pretty much out of luck, because the ranged classes will generally tag those mobs faster than you. And of course, those mobs are camped pretty much 24/7. Not gonna lie, there isn't any special secret here, but there is one thing I would advise. There's 2 spawn points for those mobs. The ramp on the actual Netherwing island that has 2 mobs spawning every now and then there's the Dragonmaw Fortress. I suggest you go to that one. Stand on the edge of this sort of big circle in the middle and just make a targeting macro and hope for the best. You need to be quick and you need to be precise for this. By the way, the tip we talked about previously also applies here. Those relics will not disappear if you have more than you need when you turn in the quest, so you can actually farm as many as you want in advance for the rainy days. But yeah, this is probably the most annoying quest here. It will hopefully get better over time though, as more people get to Exalted and leave this place. Next up, we have the Gathering Dailies. You may or may not know this, but depending on which profession you have, you'll unlock additional dailies. Those professions are mining, herbalism, and skinning. I'm not saying you should drop your current professions and go for a gathering profession just for this reputation, but if you have one of those sitting around at low level, it's not a bad idea to level them up to make this reputation go a little bit faster. Anyways, the tip here is that those dailies require items that are extremely cheap on the auction house. They barely go for vendor price actually. On top of that, the quest itself gives 12 gold back, so you'll almost always turn a profit if you buy those off the auction house. And not to mention, of course, you'll be saving something like 15 minutes of flying around. That being said, there is an argument to wanting to do this quest manually every day. First off, those nodes have a chance to drop a Netherwing egg, which can be turned in for a hefty amount of rep. Second, they also drop Outland reagents, most of which sell for a hefty amount. If you're doing Netherwing for gold, doing this manually is the way to go, I think. But if not, you can just buy those off the auction house and turn them instantly. Finally, remember to always group. Any quest that doesn't involve looting an item of a corpse is worth grouping for. Be it the Ravagers and Flayers quest, the Boomerang quest, the Peon Poisoning quest, which we talked about earlier, or the quest that takes place in the Grand. The more people you'll be grouped up with, the faster those quests will go, and the more time you'll be shaving off. So don't be shy. When you get to a quest location that involves killing something, just invite people around who are doing the same thing as you are, and save yourself some time doing it that way. You will sometimes find that one odd guy who doesn't want to group for some reason, but most people are willing to do that because it just saves them time too. To end up, here's a tip that isn't really for a daily, but more like for a one-time quest that I see a lot of people struggling with: the Dragonmaw races. So first off, you should definitely do this as soon as you can. It gives an immense amount of reputation. These quests start quite easy and they get considerably harder over time. The one that most people struggle with is the last one, Captain Sky Shatter. This guy is very fast. I believe he goes at the same speed as you, so if you're not constantly moving in his direction or in front of him, he will very likely start building distance and you'll eventually lose him. That's especially hard if you get hit by one of his meteors. So one thing you can do to make this easier, which applies for all those race quests by the way, is to get yourself a riding crop from the auction house. This item increases your flight speed by 10%. It may not look like it's much, but this makes it considerably easier to catch up with this guy once he starts creating distance. And of course, try to always stay above him, but not too close to him either to not instantly get hit by his abilities. And that's pretty much all the tips I found out about while doing Netherwing for the last few days. Those were only tips though, so if you guys are yet to get started on this reputation, we actually have a full Netherwing guide on the channel that you can check out if you want, where we go in depth on how to unlock everything and at which point you can do which daily. Of course, if you guys have more tips like these, please drop them in the comments to help out your fellow Netherwing farmers. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to give it a like and subscribe to the Classic WoW Curios channel for more content like this. I will see you guys in the next one very soon. Bye for now.